I wasn't supposed to be home that day. The original plan was to spend the weekend in Denver for a client pitch that had taken weeks to prepare. The flight, the hotel, the itinerary, everything had been set. Lily knew it. She'd kissed me goodbye at the airport, told me to crush the presentation, and reminded me to grab something from the airport gift shop for her on the way back, something cheesy but thoughtful. That was her thing, sentimental tokens for every trip, no matter how short. But the meeting was canceled last minute. Clients got sick or something. My boss said I could stick around for networking, but honestly, I just wanted to go home. Maybe it was the fatigue from travel or the fact that I hadn't been sleeping right for weeks, but something in me needed to see her. Not hear her voice, not FaceTime, actually see her. That's not normal for me. I'm not a sentimental guy, not usually. But that morning, the urge was too strong to ignore. So I rented a car and started driving back from the airport. Halfway through the drive, I remembered Lily had told me she was going to be at a work retreat for the weekend. Private lakeside property rented out for the marketing team. Supposedly a bonding thing. She'd framed it as nothing exciting, just boring presentations, bad wine, and someone probably trying to start a fire and failing. Her words. I wasn't planning to stop by. But about 40 minutes from home, I took the exit toward the lake. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was some deeper instinct. All I knew was that earlier in the week, I'd glanced over her shoulder while she was adding a location to her calendar. Just a blink, but I remembered it. And now, with nothing else to do and the feeling in my chest turning heavy, I figured I'd surprise her. She loved surprises. At least she used to. The road to the property wound through thick pine trees and fog. It was early morning, around 8 a.m., but the air was already warm. The kind of heat that clings to your skin and makes you feel like you're walking underwater. I spotted the cabin through a break in the trees, 2 stories, rustic wood siding, a deck with string lights that probably looked cozy at night. There were no other cars. Just hers. I pulled up slowly and parked a few feet behind it. As I climbed out, I noticed 2 pairs of shoes placed neatly outside the front door. One pair was hers, white sneakers with the worn-out laces she refused to replace. The other pair stopped me cold. Men's loafers. Not just any loafers, either. Expensive. Polished. Not something you pack last minute for a company getaway. I stood there for a second looking at the shoes like they were some kind of puzzle I couldn't quite solve. Something told me to turn around and leave. Just drive back home, pretend I'd never come. But I didn't. The door was unlocked. I pushed it open and stepped inside. The cabin was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels full. Like the air is holding its breath. I could hear faint sounds coming from upstairs, laughter. 2 voices. A man's and a woman's. The floor creaked under my shoes and I winced at the sound, though they didn't seem to hear me. I didn't call out. I just walked up the stairs, step by step, with my heart pounding harder than it had in years. The door to the master bedroom was slightly ajar. Light spilled out into the hallway, warm and golden. The smell of coffee and something sweet, maybe pastries, wafted through the crack. I pushed the door open. And that's when the world tilted. There they were. Lily and a man I'd never seen before. In bed. Together. Not tangled up or in the middle of anything, but still, undeniably an asterisk mate. They were sitting up under the covers, shoulder to shoulder, sharing breakfast on a tray between them. She was wearing one of my old hoodies, the one she always stole when she was cold. He was bare-chested, a thin sheet draped loosely around his waist. On the nightstand, I saw 2 wine glasses, one half full, one empty, and a bottle of red wine with the cork stuck back in sloppily. They were laughing at something. She touched his arm. He leaned in and kissed her on the cheek. And still, they hadn't noticed me. I could have stayed silent. I could have backed away. But I cleared my throat. They both looked up. Lily froze, her eyes locking on mine. There was no gasp. No scream. No rush to explain. Just this awful, calm stillness. Like she'd been expecting me, but hadn't bothered to care. Mason, she said, her voice flat but not unfriendly. You're home early. That's it. That was her opening line. No shock. No guilt. Just a mildly inconvenienced tone, like I'd interrupted her reading a book or something. The guy beside her tensed up but didn't say anything. He looked younger than me. Cleaner. His hair still damp like he'd just showered. I didn't ask who he was. I didn't say anything at all. Lily glanced at the wine glasses, then at me. It got cold last night, she said, pulling the blanket up over her chest like it made a difference. Everyone ended up crashing together. We didn't have enough blankets and the heater wasn't working. She gestured vaguely toward the tray. We made breakfast. There's coffee downstairs if you want some. That was the moment I knew I wasn't crazy. I'd spent months brushing off the little signs. The late nights. The no reception claims. The moments she'd turn her phone face down when I walked in. The emotional distance. The shift in her smell, faint traces of something unfamiliar clinging to her clothes like a ghost. I used to tell myself I was imagining things. That we were just going through a rough patch, the way couples do. But now, standing in that room, watching her casually offer me coffee from a tray she'd shared with another man in our hoodie, I knew the truth. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't an accident. It was something else entirely. Something deliberate. I didn't yell. Didn't throw anything. Didn't cry. I just stood there. Let the silence fill the room until it became unbearable. Then I turned around and walked back down the stairs. I didn't look back. The drive home was a blur. I don't even remember which roads I took. I just remember gripping the steering wheel so tightly my hands hurt. My jaw was clenched the entire time. I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't check my phone. I just drove. And drove. And drove. By the time I got home, I didn't even go inside. I sat in the car for nearly an hour, engine off, staring at the front steps like they belonged to someone else's life. I kept hearing her voice in my head, "You're home early," over and over again. Like it was a punchline to a joke I hadn't been let in on. That was the beginning of the end. The moment everything I thought I knew about my wife, about my marriage, about myself, started to unravel. And even now, days later, I can still see them. Sitting in that bed. Laughing. As if I never existed. You'd think catching your wife in bed with another man would be the clearest kind of betrayal, right? No room for ambiguity. No benefit of the doubt. But the mind is this thing, it loops. It loops and it questions and it fills in blanks with softer lies when the truth cuts too deep. You start wondering if you misread the situation. If maybe there's something you didn't understand. That's how it started for me. After I saw Lily with him in that cabin, I didn't confront her. I didn't call or text or ask her to come home. I didn't even tell anyone, not my brother, not my best friend, not my therapist. I just went quiet. I sat with the image of her in my head and waited for it to turn into something else. Something I could reason with. But it didn't. What it did do, though, was unlock a door I hadn't wanted to open. I started replaying the last few months of our life together. And once I started, I couldn't stop. It was the little things at first. Changes in her routine. She'd been working later than usual, 3-4 nights a week. Always a different excuse. Client call. Marketing brainstorm. Vendor crisis. And when I'd call, the line would ring and ring before going to voicemail. Sometimes I'd get a text an hour later, "Sorry, bad reception," or "Left my phone in my bag." I used to believe her. God, I used to believe everything. Then there was her phone itself. Notifications silenced. Face always down. She started keeping it in her pocket, even in the house. I remember one night when we were watching a movie on the couch, her phone buzzed and she jumped, actually flinched, before casually muting it. "Just work stuff," she said, and smiled like nothing was wrong. But her hands were shaking. I thought she was stressed. And maybe she was. Just not in the way I thought. There were physical changes too. Not obvious ones, nothing dramatic, but enough. She stopped reaching for my hand when we walked places. Stopped leaning into me when we sat side by side. If I touched her leg, she'd shift away a second later. She still kissed me goodnight, but it was a ghost of what it used to be. Hollow. Like she was kissing someone she couldn't remember loving. I asked her once if something was wrong. It was a Tuesday night, late, and she was sitting on the edge of the bed rubbing her temples. I remember because it took me 3 tries to get her attention. When she finally looked at me, her eyes were tired. And she said, "I think I'm just burnt out. I'm exhausted all the time. Work is draining me." I offered to plan a weekend trip, just the two of us. She said she'd think about it. She never brought it up again. And I let that go too. There was that night, maybe 6 weeks ago, when she came home wearing someone else's scent. It was faint but noticeable. A men's cologne I didn't recognize. I asked her about it as she was pulling off her coat. She gave me this short laugh and said, "You're imagining things." I probably brushed up against someone at the office. She even twirled to make light of it, kissed me on the cheek, and asked what was for dinner. It was so effortless. So practiced. I laughed with her. Told myself not to overthink it. I went and made pasta. But that scent lingered. Another memory bubbled up mid-January, maybe when she told me she was removing all social media from her phone. "I want to be more productive," she'd said. "Notifications are *ling my focus." She said it like it was a resolution. She even sounded proud of herself. It seemed reasonable. But now I can't help wondering if it was about focus or secrecy. I scrolled through our text messages the night after the cabin. Dozens of short exchanges. No warmth. No spark. Just logistical back and forth. "Can you pick up milk? I'll be home late." Did you call the plumber? When did we stop talking about anything real? And then, like a gut punch, I remembered the night she brought up the idea that she might be pregnant. It was vague, she hadn't taken a test yet, but her cycle was late and she said she'd been feeling off. I was stunned. Scared, honestly. But part of me was excited too. I told her I'd support her no matter what. She brushed it off the next day. Said it must have been stress or bad math. That was the last time she mentioned it. But after seeing her in bed with that man, I started wondering, was she pregnant then? And if she had been, whose child was it? That thought made me nauseous. I tried to keep myself distracted. Work helped a little. But even there, I found myself drifting. Staring at my laptop screen, replaying things she'd said, things she hadn't said. Every silence took on a new weight. I started writing things down. Not because I wanted to keep score, but because I needed to see it in black and white. Needed to prove to myself I wasn't crazy. That my gut, this quiet alarm I'd been silencing for months, had been right all along. I filled 3 pages in less than an hour. March 3rd, left her phone at work, asked me not to call. April 14th, came home at midnight, said dinner with clients ran late. May 5th, claimed she was at a team event. No photos. No texts. Each line felt like a cut. But the worst part wasn't the specifics, it was the pattern. A pattern of erasure. Of slowly pulling away. Of walling me off inch by inch until she was gone and I hadn't even noticed. And what K** led me most was how much I still wanted to believe she hadn't meant to hurt me. That it was a slow fade, not a betrayal. That she was lost, not lying. But I couldn't ignore the evidence. Not anymore. I started watching people differently too. At coffee shops, in meetings, even at the grocery store. I'd see couples together and wonder how many of them were living lies like mine. How many of them had that same sinking feeling in their gut but were too scared to follow it. I felt like I was stuck in a movie where I'd missed the first half. Everything around me looked normal, but I knew something had already gone terribly wrong. I didn't know what to do next. I didn't even know if I should confront her. She texted me that night. Said she'd be staying an extra day at the retreat. Something about delayed team presentations. I stared at the screen for a long time before responding with a simple okay. She added a heart emoji. I didn't reply. I just kept hearing her laugh in that bedroom. It came 2 days later, in the most unexpected way, an email with no subject line and a sender I didn't recognize. At first, I assumed it was spam. It almost slipped past me entirely, tucked between a couple of newsletters and a payment confirmation from my utility company. But something about the timing, the vagueness of it, made me pause. My finger hovered over the delete key, then I hesitated and opened it. There was no message. Just an attachment. A single video file. I almost didn't click it. Part of me was scared of what I might see, scared of what it would mean to know for sure. But curiosity, or maybe that unrelenting ache for clarity, got the better of me. I downloaded the file, double-clicked, and waited. The footage was grainy, clearly from a fixed security camera mounted above a door. Probably the retreat property's porch, judging by the wooden planks and the lakeside backdrop. A timestamp in the corner read 2:16 a.m., the same weekend Lily was bonding with her team. I turned up the volume, but there was no sound. Just the quiet hum of late-night stillness. Then the door creaked open. And Lily stepped outside. She was barefoot in nothing but a long shirt, maybe his. Her hair was down, messy, the way it always was after a night of wine and flirting. She looked around once, then smiled. A few seconds later, he followed. The same man from the cabin. The one in bed with her that morning. Tall, fit, smug-looking, like he'd done this before. He wrapped his arms around her waist, and she leaned into him without hesitation. They stood like that for a beat, rocking slightly, as if to music only they could hear. Then she kissed him. It wasn't a peck. It wasn't clumsy or hesitant. It was deep, familiar, the kind of kiss that doesn't happen by accident. She reached up to touch his face, whispered something in his ear. Her lips close enough to graze his skin, then pulled him by the hand back inside. The door closed behind them. A second later, the light in the side window flicked on. It stayed on for hours. I watched the video 3 times. Each time, it hollowed me out a little more. I kept looking for some shred of ambiguity, some way to convince myself I was misinterpreting what I saw. But I wasn't. This wasn't a one-time drunken mistake. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a cold night cuddle, like she claimed. This was something else. Something worse. It was int*mate. Familiar. Rehearsed. Deliberate. I sat back in my chair, the room suddenly spinning. My ears rang. My chest felt like it was caving in. I tried to breathe, but the air felt thick. I reached for my water glass and nearly knocked it over. There was no more wondering. No more giving her the benefit of the doubt. That video was everything I hadn't wanted to admit. She had chosen him. Not just physically. Emotionally. She had walked out into the night, barefoot, unguarded, and sought him out. And the way they touched, the way they smiled, it wasn't new. It wasn't a fling. It had history. It had rhythm. Like this wasn't the first time, and it probably wouldn't be the last. I didn't know who sent the video. Maybe someone at the house. Maybe someone from her team. Maybe a stranger who just stumbled across something they thought I should see. The email address was a throwaway, no name, just numbers. I tried replying, but the message bounced back. Account deleted. Did they pity me? Was it an act of kindness? Or revenge? I didn't care. I was grateful. Because now, for the first time, I wasn't stuck in my head. I wasn't chasing shadows. I had the truth. Unfiltered, unspinnable, undeniable. And it hurt like hell. That night, I didn't sleep. I didn't even lie down. I sat on the floor of our living room, video playing on loop on my laptop, replaying every second as if looking harder would somehow change the ending. As if maybe one time she wouldn't kiss him. Maybe she'd come outside and cry instead. Maybe she'd turn away. But she never did. By sunrise, something inside me had shifted. There was no more room for doubt. No more room for her explanations or evasions. I felt raw, yes, but also sharper. Like pain had clarified something that love had kept blurry. She texted me that morning, like clockwork. A smiley face and a photo of the lake at dawn. She wrote, "Miss you. Can't wait to be home. Look at this view." I stared at the screen for a long time before typing back, "Nice view." I didn't add anything else. Let her wonder if I sounded cold. Let her read the silence however she wanted. I backed up the video to 3 locations, my laptop, an external drive, and my cloud storage. I wasn't planning on going nuclear, not yet. But I also wasn't going to let this disappear. I kept asking myself, why? Why him? Why risk it all for some guy from work? And maybe the worst question, why didn't I see it sooner? But then again, maybe I did. Maybe I just didn't want to believe it. Maybe I'd been playing the role of the loyal husband so hard I forgot to look up and see what was actually happening around me. Later that day, I drove past her office. I wasn't sure what I was hoping to see. Her car wasn't there, of course. She was still away at the retreat. But I sat across the street anyway, watching employees filter in and out, laughing, holding coffee cups, tapping away on their phones. Were they in on it? Did they know? Had they seen her sneak off with him? Had they kept her secret? The possibility made my skin crawl. I pulled away after 10 minutes. Drove home. Showered. Changed. Sat at the kitchen table, staring at our framed wedding photo on the wall. We looked happy. We were happy. Or at least I thought we were. I remember that day so clearly. Her veil caught in the wind. My hands trembling as I held hers. The way she cried during her vows and whispered, "We're going to make it." Now I couldn't tell if that was real or rehearsed. That night, I poured myself a drink. Sat back in the same chair where we used to do lazy Sunday crossword puzzles. My hand hovered over my phone more than once. I wanted to call her, ask her why, demand the truth. But I didn't, because I already knew. And hearing her try to explain it would only make it worse. I thought the worst part was knowing. Turns out I was wrong. The worst part wasn't the discovery, the betrayal, or even the video itself. It was what came after, the part one never saw coming. The moment everything spilled out of the shadows and into the glaring light of public shame. It started on a Monday morning, 3 days after I received the video. I was in the middle of a meeting at work, trying and failing to focus when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it the first time, then the second, then finally pulled it out and glanced at the screen. 3 messages. All from coworkers. One just said, "Dude." Another, "You okay?" The third was a link. My stomach sank. I clicked it. It led to a private message board, a Slack channel used by some of the employees at Lily's company. Someone had taken the security footage and uploaded it there, titling the post, "Team Building Goals Faced with Tears of Joy." There it was. The video. The exact clip I'd been watching on loop for days, now reduced to gossip fodder. Beneath it, a string of comments, some laughing, some crude, some stunned. People reacting like it was a scandal from a reality show instead of the implosion of my marriage. I felt the blood drain from my face. And it only got worse. A few hours later, someone from her department, some smug intern with a flair for digital chaos, I guess, posted a screen recording of the video to a semi-popular Instagram account that specialized in office culture fails. From there, it spread like fire in dry brush. Within a day, the video had over 20,000 views. Then 50,000. Then 100,000. They blurred the faces just enough to keep it from being a privacy violation. But not enough. Not enough to protect her. And definitely not enough to protect me. I found myself tagged in a vague, passive-aggressive meme someone made, something about the husband always being the last to know. That hit hard. Because they weren't wrong. Apparently, everyone had known. Or suspected. Or at least whispered about it when she wasn't in the room. A friend of a friend reached out to me, apologetically, to say they'd heard stuff a while ago but didn't want to get involved. A mutual acquaintance from college messaged me on Facebook, "Hey man. I saw the video. I'm really sorry." Lily was always kind of flirty, but I didn't think. Yeah, me neither. Lily came home the next evening. She looked wrecked. Not from guilt, but from sheer exposure. Her phone had been blowing up. HR had called her in. She'd been placed on an immediate administrative leave while the company investigated inappropriate behavior during an official offsite. She walked into the living room, dropped her bag, and collapsed on the edge of the couch. "They posted it," she said, voice hollow. "I didn't say anything. I didn't even look up. I don't know who did it," she continued. "But it's out. It's everywhere. People at work are messaging me. Friends. My mom called me crying. She looked at me like she expected sympathy. I just sat there. I never meant for this to happen," she whispered. That was the moment I looked at her. Not with anger, not even with pain, but with something colder. Emptier. "You mean you never meant for anyone to find out?" I said. She blinked. For once, she didn't have a response. The next day, I found out the video had made it to one of those corporate gossip blogs. The kind that thrives on exposés and half-truths. They didn't name her directly, but they didn't need to. The clues were obvious: mid-level marketing exec from a notable West Coast firm caught in steamy lakeside affair during company offsite. A photo of the cabin was included. A few of her coworkers anonymously commented beneath the post. The kind of vague, slippery remarks people make when they want to sound concerned but really just want attention. There were signs. She was always staying late with him. He used to brag about her. It was gross. Honestly, I'm more shocked it took this long for people to find out. I read every line, each one scraping away whatever shred of pride I had left. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was humiliation. And not the private kind. This was public. Viral. We *P***nized. And still, she never apologized. Not really. She explained. She gave context. Excuses. Long monologues about stress, disconnection, how she didn't feel seen. She kept saying she didn't expect to catch feelings and that she wasn't trying to hurt anyone. But she never said, "I'm sorry I broke us." Because deep down, I don't think she thought she did. Not until the world turned on her. That night, I opened my laptop and searched her name. There it was. A Reddit thread. A few tweets. A Tumblr post with a side-by-side comparison of her LinkedIn photo and a freeze frame from the video. The internet never forgets. I sat there watching her reputation erode in real time and I felt nothing. Not vindicated. Not satisfied. Just numb. She lost friends. Colleagues stopped answering her messages. Group chats she used to light up went silent. Some of her clients requested transfers. Her inbox became a graveyard of apologies and warnings and HR notices. But the damage didn't stop at her. It came for me too. People stared when I got groceries. Some whispered at the gas station. I overheard a woman at the gym say, "That's the guy." From the video. Like I was a character in someone else's show. Like I didn't exist outside the context of her scandal. At work, people avoided eye contact. A couple of them offered vague, sympathetic comments, but mostly I got space. The kind of space reserved for grieving people. Or walking disasters. I couldn't even scroll through social media without seeing it, some mention, some image, some echo of that night. And all I kept thinking was, this never should have been my story. I didn't choose this. I didn't invite it. I didn't cheat or lie or drag our marriage into some performative team-building retreat. But I was still the one left behind. Still the one cleaning up the emotional wreckage. I kept asking myself, what did I do wrong? What signs did I miss? Why wasn't I enough? And that's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't just wreck your relationship, it warps your reflection. It makes you question everything you were, everything you thought you were building. It makes you wonder if the whole thing was fake. Even the good parts. Even the parts that felt like love. Eventually we ended up in counseling. Not because I wanted to salvage the marriage, but because I needed to hear her say it out loud, needed to know if anything we'd built together had ever been real, or if it had all just been a long con with a wedding ring. Lily was the one who suggested therapy. She said it like it was a logical next step, like calling a plumber after the pipes burst. We need help, she said. We owe it to ourselves to at least try. Owe it to who? But I said yes. Not because I believed her. Because I wanted to stop feeling like I was losing my mind. Our first session was in a cozy, overpriced office downtown. The kind with aromatherapy diffusers and soft jazz playing under everything. Our therapist, a woman named Ellen, looked like someone who owned a lot of plants and listened deeply for a living. She spoke in gentle tones, nodded a lot, and wrote things down on a yellow notepad without ever showing us what she'd written. She started by asking us to speak from the heart. I had no idea what that even meant anymore. Lily went first. She cried before she even started talking. Said she was ashamed, that she hated what she'd done. That she loved me deeply and was willing to do whatever it takes to rebuild. I didn't respond. Ellen turned to me and asked how I felt. Like I'm listening to a monologue that's been rehearsed in a mirror, I said. Lily flinched. That's not fair. Isn't it? I replied. Because you've had months to prepare for this. I just got dragged into it on the day I found out my marriage was a marketing campaign for your double life. Ellen cleared her throat gently. Let's try to focus on communicating, not attacking. I didn't say anything after that. I just let Lily talk. She told stories. That's what they felt like, stories. Not lies exactly, but not truths either. They kept changing, slightly, depending on which angle she thought would make her look better. First, it was a flirtation. Harmless texts. Emotional confusion. Then it became a one-time mistake. A moment of weakness. Too much wine, she said. One bad choice. Later, 2 sessions in, she admitted they'd been seeing each other for months. I asked her when it started. She hesitated, then said, I think it was around Christmas. But I already knew that wasn't true. I'd seen the receipts. The messages. The timestamps. She didn't know I'd checked her cloud backups. Didn't know I'd read a string of saved messages between her and him hidden inside an archived folder labeled Q4 Marketing Materials. It wasn't just months. It was nearly a year. He had a nickname for her. Lark. I'd never called her that. I didn't even know what it meant. She said it came from a dumb inside joke, something about a bird outside the office window. I said nothing during that session either. But later that night I looked up what a lark meant. A lark, a carefree adventure. Something light. Fleeting. Perfect. In our 4th session, Ellen asked us to identify the rupture in our relationship. What do you think the turning point was? She asked Lily. Lily said she didn't know. That she'd felt disconnected for a while. That I'd seemed distracted, emotionally unavailable, buried in work. I smiled at that. A tight, bitter smile. You mean the work I was doing to pay our mortgage? To fund your retreats and brunches and wine nights with coworkers? That work. She looked down. I'm not blaming you, Mason. I'm just explaining what I felt. But it was blame. It always circled back to that. Somehow I wasn't present enough. Not affectionate enough. Not enough. That's how she kept framing it. Like her affair was the symptom of my negligence. Ellen asked me how I felt hearing that. I shrugged. I feel like I was carrying 2 people's weight while one of them was making excuses for why she let go. The silence after that was long. In the following sessions, Lily said she was ready to cut contact with him. She wanted to focus on us. She even blocked his number in front of me. Made a show of it. Then deleted his messages, her Instagram DMs, even the secret email account I hadn't told her I knew about yet. It didn't feel like healing. It felt like theater. One night, I asked her quietly, no emotion, do you still love him? She hesitated. It was less than 2 seconds. But I counted them. Then she said no. That pause, though, it was a crack in the wall. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. That same night, I asked her why she told me she might have been pregnant a few months ago. Her face turned pale. I don't know. I thought I was. Was it mine? I asked. Her eyes watered. Mason. Was it mine? I repeated. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. That was the last session I attended. I told Ellen I was done. That I appreciated the space she tried to hold, but the stage had collapsed. There was no scene left to act in. Lily kept going alone. Or said she did. She left her journal on the table one day, open by accident. I shouldn't have read it. I know that. But I did. A single page caught my eye. She wrote, "I want to fix things, but I don't know if I miss Mason or just miss being forgiven." That line broke something in me. I realized she didn't want our marriage back. She wanted redemption. She wanted to feel good again. Clean again. And I couldn't give her that. I wasn't her priest. I wasn't her therapist. I wasn't her blank slate to write over. I was the husband who sat at a dinner table every night while she built a second life in the margins of ours. I thought I was healing, but what I was really doing was shrinking. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't slam doors. I just stopped being present. My body was in the room, but I wasn't. One night, she cried while folding laundry. Said she didn't know if I'd ever love her again. I told her the truth. I don't know either. The next day, she didn't come home from work. She texted me at 11:42 p.m., stayed at a friend's. Needed space. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I turned off my phone.